Yes. Just yes. It's one of those videos again. Groningen is easily one of the best gunboat destroyers in the entire game. So if you're interested in gunboat DDs, you want this ship. It is just that good. I'm playing Friesland here, but they are the exact same ship. The Groningen is just in the Dutch tech tree, and Friesland came out before there was a Dutch tech tree, so it's in the pan-European line, I suppose. No difference at all in the stats, though, so these ships will play the exact same. And that means they're both incredibly powerful. This ship has tier 10 levels of DPM at tier 9. Now, there's some compromises on your ship to get that DPM, but you do have 233,000 HE DPM, which is just absolutely monstrous. That puts you 5th best out of tier 9 and 10 ships. So even against tier 10 ships, you're 5th best. Absolutely wild what this thing can do. That puts you ahead of things like Gdansk and Daring and Sherman, if Sherman is only using HE. Sap Sherman's a little bit better, certainly. But Gearing as well. Like, you're really powerful when it comes to your HE DPM. So that's really all we're worried about here, is how strong are these main guns going to be? The AP is actually really good as well, so feel free to use that against broadsides. I'm certainly going to employ that as well here. But HE spam is the way to go here, because you farm battleships incredibly well. In this first game, we're going to be running more of a gunboat build, where we're less focused on concealment and more just maximizing the DPM and range of these main guns. Although I did play it with a more conceal-focused build, a little more consumable-focused, and I think that is going to be an easier way to play this ship if you're not used to gunboats. I think it's a really solid ship for people looking to get into gunboat destroyers. Maybe that's a little bit wrong thanks to the just terrible maneuverability of this ship. It's very slow, it's large, there's no healing here, and 20,000 HP goes away rather quickly when you get into a bad situation. So maybe not the best for beginners, but if you're looking to learn how to play gunboats and you're okay with dying very quickly and using that as a learning experience, this could be a good option for you. Just look at this fire chance and the DPM on this Jean Bart. We're having a little troubles aiming in this one. This is my very first game I played in it this morning, and I haven't played it for a while, so I'm not very used to these main guns. But back to the DPM just for a second. Smaland has 247,000 HE DPM. You're essentially bringing Smaland guns down to tier 9. It's absolutely wild. Smaland has a 1.7 second base reload, and Friesland has a 1.8 second. That's really the difference there. And of course, with AR buffs, Fearless Brawler, basics, it's not called BFT anymore, whatever it's called, the 3-pointer for 5% gun reload, you can see just how insane this reload can get. When we're fighting against cruisers, though, we actually don't have the HE pen to deal with them outside of their superstructure. So it's going to be very difficult to do good damage. And that's where I really would want to be using armor piercing against cruisers. And I really should be swapping it to here, especially as this Helena goes broadside. We'll get some fires, though, which is pretty nice. Other downsides, though, yeah, I already mentioned the maneuverability. We got to talk about that. That is the big deal here. This ship is a little bit clumsy and very, very slow. You only go 36 knots, and anytime you're turning, you are going to bleed a lot of speed. So it does not retain its speed all that well. Your base detection is 8 kilometers, so running a build like this one, I'm around 7 kilometer detect. The best you can do is like 6.5 or something. We'll take a look at those builds in a little bit. So not the best concealment on this ship, but again, you have that massive gun power to contend with. So it's a good thing this ship doesn't have like a 5.5 or 6 kilometer detect. That would be kind of busted overpowered. This ship is already kind of overpowered, if I'm being honest with you. It's very, very difficult to deal with. Speaking of the smokes, though, now that we're smoking up here, you always got to make sure that you have someone spotting for you when you smoke up. And don't be too hard on our Kitakazi. He's actually playing very, very well. But it's a great example of you got to be aware of who is smoking up when you're smoking, especially when you're in a Friesland like this where you want to be farming from a smoke, where open water gunboating is a little bit more difficult thanks to being a large target and relatively easy to hit because you're not all that fast. So you have to know who's spotting for you. And it's not just this Kitakazi or whatever, it is myself too. In the next game, I'm gonna make that mistake myself, where I smoke up and the target I want to farm goes dark. I forget about it too. You got to really pay attention to it. And that's what's going to unlock a lot of damage potential for playing the Friesland. Here, I'm not smoking up yet, mostly because I'm not really under any pressure, but I also want to get a little bit closer to that North Carolina and the Gunboat that might be pushing towards the B cap here. In this case, I check this time. See, I check first and realize that the Kitakazi is not smoked up right now, so I'm going to use my smoke, and that way we can still get some damage in on this North Carolina. He has used his damage control, so even though he's broadside, we're going to stick with that high explosive. That's one fire already. Can we get another one here? Got to aim a little further back, and we should be getting a couple more. That's the second one. Can we get a third, maybe? Yes. Can we get the fourth? Don't do what I do here. I'm going to be a little bit greedy. I'm a little bit content-brained when I'm playing this game at the moment, so wouldn't just lighting all 4 fires instantly, that'd be a good clip, right? So I'm actually not going to get the 4th fire here. I don't think I'm quite leading enough, and we're getting no damage, because obviously we don't full pen his bow. At these angles, it should just easily be armor piercing. We're losing a few ships. We're down on ships at this point, certainly up on points, but this game could spiral out of control rather quickly. So it's time to swap over to that AP and just finish off this North Carolina. There's really a lot of wasted time there that I should have been just using the AP, because look at the damage pour in now that we're using AP. We already have 3 fires. Why are we getting greedy for the 4th? For the clip, obviously. We got to go for those content plays. We finish off that MC and stick with the AP into the mines here now. Again, cruisers, broadside, the damage output is immense. As a cruiser player, you do have to respect it. It's a very high DPM coming in, and this AP does excellent, excellent damage. Getting quite a bit of awards in this one too, which is very nice. So not a special commander here allowing us to buff our ship based on those awards. I suppose the Pan-European line does have some buffs that we can get, but that's more for hitting torpedoes or shooting down planes. I was not using that commander, by the way. I just used a basic commander. That way it makes a little more sense. The Dutch tree does not have that special commander, at least yet. So that'll be interesting to see if they come up with one. Our Kitakazi opens up and finishes off the mines, which is really good because that allows us to focus in on this enemy destroyer and Gunboat in B. Still a close game, even though the points are almost won for us. Again, it could really spiral out of control here quick. Our damage really ramped up to almost 100 or 200,000 damage in this one. Very, very nice result. It's such a strong DD, guys. It really is. It does punish you for bad positioning, though. And that's the key here is if you're going to get this as a newer destroyer player or someone who's looking to learn gunboat DDs, this one is really going to punish you for bad positioning. That's the key here. And that's going to suck, but it will teach you how to position well. If you can position Friesland well, you can play any gunboat DD in the game, because pretty much everything else has better tools for survivability or getting out of bad situations, whether it be speed boost, French saturation. I suppose this thing has smokes, but you know, smokes do help you out, but a heal certainly will help you out as well. Better concealment. Just barely dodging that torpedo. Very close. Better maneuverability as well. More HP. Most ships have better survivability characteristics than a Friesland, but they don't have the DPM. We got to compliment our Kitakazi friend here for playing so well on our flank. Certainly, we would not have done the damage we did without his support in spotting, and honestly, the torps that he landed were really, really good this game as well. And we even make 1.6 million credits out of that game. Sure, it is blue boosters. It's a premium account, of course, but that's a lot of credits. We got to talk about that too. Tier 9 ships are premium, where they actually have not only the reduced credits cost for resupplying your ship and repairing your ship after battle, but it also has a credit multiplier built into the ship that is going to massively boost your credit income. Anytime you're getting a tier 10 premium ship, it's technically not a premium, it's a special ship. The way you can tell is by the outline or the icon next to the ship name. If it's a silver icon for the ship with a gold wreath, that's going to be a special ship. No credit multiplier, but it will allow you to swap commanders over for free and give you reduced servicing costs, which in itself is very nice. But the tier 9 premiums have that multiplier, and the biggest multiplier in the game outside of original Missouri if you happen to have that. So that's how you're going to farm the most credits. So you're going to notice that if you're getting the tier 9 ships for coal or steel or research points or just for real money, those are going to earn you the most credits. We're going to reverse out of this smoke here and take a lot of damage, but we do manage to catch this split off guard and hopefully take him out. We do. But we take a lot of pain in return for that. You gotta be careful. Friesland here with 12 or so kilometers of range, but with a full concealed build. Trying to play it a little bit more as a team play role. I also took things like Superintendent, where otherwise I wouldn't on the full DPM build, because I just don't have the points for it. It gives us 4 smokes and 4 hydros. This is really how I'd recommend you play if you're newer. It's much more flexible, much more forgiving, allowing you to have just more smokes as your survivability tactic. Again, no heal here. It's a little clumsy. All right, let's smoke up and farm this Zeton, right? That would be great. He's pushing in as a battleship. This is a perfect opportunity for us to get a ton of damage in. Oh, wait, did somebody not check if someone else was spotting for them and then they smoked up? Yep, I do it too, guys. We're fortunate that he fired his guns, allowing us to get some damage in anyway. Nice that we're able to use our hydro at the same time as these smokes. It's another thing that's going to allow you to do relatively well in this ship with this build if you're a little bit newer. You can have 4 smokes to get some decent farming out of. They last a long time. And you don't have to worry about the torpedoes coming in and killing you with your pretty large, clumsy ship because you have such a good hydro. This is really the bread and butter of this ship if you're learning how to play it. I would try to go and be on a flank where the enemy team is pushing in. It's not always guaranteed, certainly, but if you do end up on a flank where the enemy team is pushing in, make sure someone's spotting for you. And then use your smoke and hydro at the same time. And then you have 4 opportunities to do that throughout a match. And that should net you some pretty decent damage. And in the downtime in between those opportunities, that's where you can experiment a little bit. And Friesland does a pretty good job there as well. It's not like you have to smoke. You can use island cover still. This ship has plenty of DPM to play it like a light cruiser around islands and do some good farming damage that way. Like onto this North Carolina here. You do have to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings then, because someone can spot you and then you're going to take a lot of damage. But in this case, we know we're not getting detected here. The Sherman's not around, at least at the moment, so we can just slow down here and farm this MC. Now we're spotted, probably the Sherman. Indeed it is, and he's going to shoot at us, so we need to pick up the pace and move in. Jinan also gets spotted now, and notice he's not detecting me here because he's just outside our gun range, and I stop firing. We don't get greedy for it, not now on this HP. In a crossfire between a Sherman and a Jinan, that would have been bad, so we play it a little more patient. Pushing up to help our Shimakaze, we run into the Sherman. Very scary target to deal with. Fortunately, he ends up going behind the island and only had his front turret available to shoot us for the most part. So we do not take too much damage to the Sherman, but I would not advise taking on a Sherman. Even though we have good DPM, his SAP DPM is just so much higher. Nearly 100k DPM higher with the SAP. It's like 320 some thousand. Versus our 233,000 with HE. Very scary. Our hydros are the same though, so both 5 kilometer hydros. I have backup, so I'm willing to reverse to try and hydro this guy. But smartly, this guy in the Sherman is getting out of the way, although our Harbin pushes in and manages to take him out. A little bit less damage in this one, certainly not going for as much of a farming game, but it shows the team play elements that you can help your team push into caps and win flanks, especially when you have a Shimakaze or a spotting DD on your flank. Something with better concealment than you. You just play that second line destroyer role and you're gonna have a great time because you have a lot of firepower, and then you deal with your weaknesses by having someone else do the spotting for you, or you're the backup to them. You're dealing with their weaknesses, like a Shimakaze doesn't have the best firepower. We can make up for that with our DPM. It works really well. Now, unfortunately, we kind of waste this smoke, I guess you could say. Certainly the NC could be an option to farm here if we push forward, but hey, with this build, we have 4 smokes. We can afford to waste 1 or 2. That's the key here. You don't have to play exactly perfectly. Something like a Sherman with 2 smoke space. Yeah, it's a little bit more awkward. Friesland allowing you a few more opportunities to misuse a smoke, use it as a way to survive, and not use it for just pure DPM purposes. In this case, the NC is pushing in as well as the encounter still here, so opportunity to farm, and then they go dark. I think our Shimakaze got spotted or was close to getting spotted by the NC, so that's probably why he smoked. But again, a great example of you can't do damage from your smoke if someone else isn't spotting for you. And we don't want to blame these people. It's just a fact of playing the game and playing this ship. You have to be aware of that. So here's an example where I'm going to go out and spot. Our Shimakaze is going to go back to defend the sea cap and deal with the enemy battleships pushing in there. And I will push the north here and not fire. That's important. I'm not going to shoot here because we're caught in a crossfire with a G-Nan, although Vermont probably kills G-Nan here, let's be honest. We just can spot this North Carolina, this encounter, and not have to do any damage here. Even though we're a damage-dealing destroyer, our teammates are here to do damage, and they're going to do a lot better job, especially if they have the spotting. Otherwise, no damage is being done to these guys. NC damage cons, and you know I got to be a little bit greedy with it, so let's see. Can we get ourselves a fire? His damage control runs out, and we get the instant double fire. Poor guy, man. Poor guy. That's rough. But that is what Friesland can do. This is a situation where you probably want to switch to AP, especially if they're broadside. Talking about that earlier, trying to go for that 4 fire clip, a little too greedy. If you get the superstructure fires and the ship is broadside, just swap to AP right away. There's no point in going for those stern or bow fires. You're just losing a lot of DPM. Now, I said our maneuverability is not great, but there are certain areas where you can displace your ship a lot, and it's an angle like this, where you're pushing towards or away from someone, and you can kind of drift around the incoming shells. And Friesland can kind of do that. I wouldn't recommend you rely on that. Certainly open water gunboating, a little bit risky, but it can dodge some incoming fire, especially if you're paying attention to the shells and where they're coming from, and there's not too many people shooting at you as well. We're going to pop our Hydro as we're crossing over a relatively easy torp lane, I would say. If I was at encounter, I would probably be trying to torp towards the cap because that's where the Friesland is most likely to go. So Hydro used here, not with our smoke, but rather just to guarantee we don't eat torps when we're passing in front of our teammates. That's another way to use this Hydro, and it works very well. Obviously, the other one is to push into a cap that contains an island, push towards the island, and then you can just Hydro the entire cap. That's another good use of it, but a little bit riskier, certainly. I wouldn't advise doing that in every game. It needs the right scenario. Farming over this island here, you can do a pretty good job, even without full range mod. I suppose a good way to run this ship, if you're having trouble with it, is to run the conceal build with the extra consumables, and then also run range on your commander. That would give you that 14 kilometers of range and still give you good concealment. That would make it pretty comfortable to play. Yamato goes down, teammates in the south doing a good job, and it's just this encounter left in this game. A little bit less damage, but hey, we've managed to do 43k in spotting damage, as well as help capture 2 cap zones. A little more team play into this one, and Friesland can do it. It's not just a purely selfish DD, although it certainly runs pretty well that way. It does a good job of farming damage, so if you're interested in that, I think Friesland is going to be an excellent ship to go for. Sorry, Groningen. It's Groningen. I'm playing Friesland only because they're copies, and that's the ship I happen to have on my main account. I hope I haven't just been saying that the entire video. Oh no, is this a PQ memory moment? Uh-oh. Maybe I'm getting old. Decent base XP there, and certainly some very, very nice credit income yet again. You can really rely on these tier 9 premiums to give you really nice credit income. And the last little clip here I have for you is when battleships push in, you're loving it. You are just loving it. You don't have to smoke up every time. It's important to recognize situations where you can. Certainly here, our teammates would be spotting for us. But this Kremlin's not going to be going after us. So why would I smoke? There's no point, right? So I can go to the south and maybe deal with this Ugamo. That would be a very interesting way to both farm this Kremlin and also help our teammates out here. Although if we're gonna do that, we better pop our Hydro soon so that we don't eat some random torpedoes from that Ugamo. That would be a very, very easy way to die in this ship. I ate plenty of torps in Hayate yesterday and did not eat torps in the Friesland, although it was a little bit close at times. Hydros are pretty nice for that. Actually, speaking of that Hayate, I was thinking about it as I was editing that video. That might have been my worst recording session I've had ever, maybe? So maybe I was too easy on the ship, but I still think it's a pretty solid one, given its general capability in a lot of variable scenarios. But it's just funny to have that day of recording after Jacksonville the other week, where I had maybe my best day of recording ever. Certainly, you can have massive swings in your damage output in this game, and that's life. That's how it goes. There we go. We found the Ugamo. He's using his guns even? A Ugamo with guns. Look at this, guys. And he's done the bait where he shoots and then it baits me into turning and maybe eating a torp. No, we just get out of the way in time. He's doing good damage to us actually as well. The Kremlin also gets a parting salvo, so manages to help the Ugamo finish us off, and honestly, props to the Ugamo for using his guns. Yes, we have better gun power, but with some teammate support and a HP advantage, you should be using your guns in plenty of destroyers. I tried to mention that towards the end of that Hayate video as well, but in any DD, you can outgun these massively powerful gunboat DDs if you put yourself in the right situation. At the end of the day, positioning and team play matters much more than the raw output of your own individual ship. If you misplay in your ship, you're gonna die in this game. That's just kind of how it goes. Another really good credit income game, although a little bit less in this one. And somehow I think I managed to go through this whole video without even mentioning the cost of this ship. My bad. 228,000 coal is the cost of the Groningen, and that makes it a little bit cheaper than the tier 10s, but not by a ton. So really what it comes down to is, do you want the extra credit income that the full premium ships are going to give you? If not, then you can see here with this silver ship icon with the gold wreath, that's where you're going to have the special ships at tier 10. And that's going to give you the reduced cost to service the ship after battle, but not the bonus to credit income like the tier 9s give you. Although Friesland being essentially tier 10 in terms of its DPM, it can do just fine in tier 10 matchmaker. The problem is positioning and staying alive thanks to your lower HP pool and rather clumsy ship. You don't get any torpedoes at all, so if you want to be a hybrid ship, this is not the one for you. But as a pure gunboat, this is an immensely powerful ship and very fun to play if you're interested in gunboats. Here's the build I was running at the end of that second game, where I was a little more focused on survivability, more superintendent here giving us extra smokes, and that's basically our lifeline. But notice I don't have that extra gun range, so only 12.4 kilometers of gun range. We could redistribute that if we wanted to and take something like main battery and AA expert instead of running both demo and main battery and AA specialist. That way you'd have a little worse DPM, a little worse fire chance, but you'd have that extra range, which is so nice. And then for the other build that I was running, I actually did not take superintendent and I did not take demo expert. I then took fearless brawler and main battery and AA expert. I also didn't take concealment, so very aggressive build there that you could do without superintendent or concealment expert. Those are your two main survivability upgrades that you can take here, and I got rid of them for more DPM and more range. You also can't quite fit demo into that build, but if you want the full gun experience, that is the one to go with, and it is kind of hilarious. It is so powerful. But if you're doing a lot of your damage out of smokes, then, well, fearless brawler is not going to help you at all. Maybe something to consider there. As for the equipment, again, it's a gun build. I am indeed running propulsion mod, and we still feel a little sluggish. No extra speed boost here to help us out at all. It's just pretty slow and pretty big with not the best HP pool. I haven't really talked about it, but your AA is really good. It does generally make the carrier not go after you, but If they decide to kill you, they're going to kill you. That's just how it goes with carriers in this game, unfortunately. But maybe Wargaming will remove them at some point, right? Surely that might happen. Or this proposed rework will give us a nerf to carriers, right? It won't just buff them. All right. We won't have our customary carrier rant in this one. I'll end it there. So Groningen, very, very powerful ship. Very, very good at tier 9. You're not really at the mercy of Matchmaker. Some people were talking about that in chat as well. They're fine into tier 10. Even super ship games, it's just more HP to farm, right? That's what the viewpoint of a Friesland or Groningen player. And it's really fun. Although positioning is very difficult here. You can die quickly. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And again, let me know what you think about this ship in the comments down below. That way, anybody looking to get it maybe can see some alternate opinions, and that can give them a better perspective on it. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.